Thank you. Namaste. I joined Unity of Columbia, but that wasn't its name then, on December the 7th, 2003. Now, as a lifelong Episcopalian, I didn't leave the Episcopal Church mad. I was just looking for something that was a better fit for me spiritually on my yellow brick road. So I found this church, found it in the Yellow Pages, and I visited, and it was a nice experience. And then I was invited back to the social hour, the fellowship hall after the service. And to get there, of course, you have to go through the bookstore. And as I passed through the bookstore, I saw authors I recognized, many books that I had read, and I said, these are my people. These are my people. And my experience of Unity, of you, is that it's a group of people who are exploring, who are searching, and supporting each other in that search. So in our time together, I'm going to explore with you three things, and we'll use the Wizard of Oz as a lens to look through, and some other things. To look at, you have all you need to do the work that is yours to do. And secondly, you are a minister. And the third we're going to look at is, what is your ministry and why is it important? Now, probably like me, you've been to talks or conferences or workshops, and gosh, it was really good, and you got a lot out of it, and you felt great about it. Then you left, and you had nothing to hang your hat on, that you could implement what you had learned. Well, I want to share with you some tactics, some tools that you can use before you ever leave here to put into place these three principles. So let's look at the first. You have, when I say you, I mean me too. You have all you need to do the work that's yours to do. Now the problem is, as I see it, is we don't believe that. And when we look at our friend Dorothy and her three traveling companions, they were looking to find the Wizard of Oz to get what they needed. Because that cyclone had thrown Dorothy away from Auntie Em's comfortable home in Kansas to Oz, and she wanted to go back, which metaphysically she wanted to get back to her source. And she found the Tin Man. Well, the Tin Man thought he needed a heart, love. And she found the Scarecrow. Well, Scarecrow, he needed a brain, wisdom. And the Cowardly Lion, he felt like he needed courage to get what they needed to get. I don't know if you remember, but on Mother's Day, I brought Garrett, my 6-year-old granddaughter. She comes, when she spends the night with me, she often comes to church. And it was Mother's Day, so we were going to bring a picture of our mother, put it up here, as Peggy had artfully designed for us to do. And Garrett had a picture of her mother, and she brought it, and I came up and talked about my mother, put a picture up there, and invited Garrett to come to. Well, ultimately, finally, Peggy kind of gave it the eye, and I said, "You want to go?" So she and I came up. She put her picture of her mother there, and she made a hasty retreat back to her study. That might seem like a little thing to you, but Garrett had to dig deep into her courage to do that. So it doesn't have to be a big thing. You don't have to decide you're going to do away with ISIS to demonstrate. It can be the little stuff counts too. So what does that cost us when we believe we have to go somewhere else to solve our problem? Well, we spend an awful lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of energy looking for that, which is a real big setup to feel unworthy, unloved, and not enough. So how do we get to that place? What's the cause of that? Well, in my view, there have been a lot of big, powerful entities like the beauty industry. I mean, you got to look like Barbie to be worthy. And Hollywood, and in some cases, organized religion has convinced us that you have to go outside of yourself to get what you need to live a joyful, fulfilled life. So what's the solution to that? That's what I always want to know. I work as a business coach and a consultant, and my clients will say, well, you know, this is wrong, this, and I said, okay, I get that. So what are you willing to do about it? So our unity principle number 2, which Jenny read for us, is a great resource because our essence is of God, therefore we are inherently good. This God essence was fully expressed in Jesus the Christ. So there you have it. So the solution is for you to be willing to believe that you are enough, that you have what you need. Let's take a look at the second principle I put forward, that you are a minister. Well, now the problem with that is we don't have credentials like Reverend Peggy has. We don't have the title like Reverend Peggy has. We haven't been to seminary like she has. And so we tend to look at our life and what we do professionally, how we earn money, as two separate things. The cost to that is that we miss a lot of opportunities. We miss a lot of chances to demonstrate love and compassion. As St. Francis says, preach the gospel at every opportunity. And when necessary, use words. So what is the cause? Well, I think we're taught that we are separate. It's either this, we're either spiritual or we're not. They're not together. And we've given our power over to some pretty important things like organized religion in some cases. You know, when Dorothy and her friends got to the Emerald City, which was made of emeralds, Oz insisted that they put on green glasses so that it would appear even more wonderful. And so what tools can you use? What is the solution to that? Well, you could go to Harvard. But I think I can give you something a little bit quicker and more inexpensive than a trip to Harvard. I met Amy Cuddy at the Women Presidents Organization's annual conference in Baltimore. Amy, we're on a first name basis now. And she was one of our speakers. And Amy's research, Amy is a professor in the business school at Harvard, and she shared with us her research. And here's what we learned, that your body changes your mind. Where your body goes, your mind follows. So she taught us to use power poses. Now, you recognize this. That's really a universal signal of power, of victory. People run across the finish line of the Olympics, yay! We win something, yay! But this is what you can do. You can assume a power pose, which is, power poses are expansive. You open yourself up. And you can feet a little bit apart, hands over your hip, chins up. And use that pose for 2 minutes before you start your day. Before you go into a presentation. Well, let's just practice. Let's just practice together. Okay, feet about shoulder width apart. Shoulders back. Chin up. Breathe deeply. already have what you need. It didn't cost you a thing. It didn't cost you a thing. Congratulations. So that's a tool that you can use. Going to the bathroom before a big event, whether that's a job interview, whether you're asking for a raise, where you're in a relationship and you need to get some things straightened out. Assume the power pose. I don't recommend that you go into an interview and do this. But your mind follows your body. And when you don't feel powerless, when you feel powerful, you're in a much stronger position. Powerless poses are when you collapse. You know, kind of like when you stay on your phone all the time. You know what I mean? And if you see somebody sitting like this in a meeting, for example, that's a powerless position. You know, you get on a bus, an airplane, and there's this phenomena that I observe, I know you have too, it's called man spreading. You know, men tend to sit down and they spread, knees are about this far apart. Y'all got to cut that out. Well, I got on the airplane to come home from Baltimore, and I sat down. I had an aisle seat, and I was kind of curious about who would be sharing the seat next to me. Not long before this tall man came down the aisle. I imagine she's 30, 35 or so, and I let him into the seat. We got ready. We take off. You know what? Before long, I noticed that his arm was over here like this. And then pretty soon I noticed his leg was over here like this. And I was like this. I said, you know, I paid for this thing. So I wonder if this works. So I just very gently and quietly put my arm up there and gave it a little nudge. Came in a little bit. And then his leg was still out like this. I said, I just very gently touched his left leg, and he just, and we had a wonderful ride. So use power poses. Before you ever get out of the bed, you can be like this. 2 minutes, that's all it takes to change your mind. And Amy writes in her book, which I highly recommend you get. You can go on to our Unity website, to Amazon, and order her book, which is Presence, Bringing Your Boldest Self to Your Biggest Challenge. And she wants to spread this word. It's not a how-to book. It's based on her research at Harvard. It is profound. And I concluded that presence was standing fully in your power with courage to take the next step without concern for the outcome. And when you believe, when you have confidence, people will engage with you when you believe what you say, not when you're trying to sell snake oil. I would have a really hard time working for R.J. Reynolds. That would be very difficult, or the coal industry. That would be very difficult for me to make a sale to that. So that's a 2. Power poses. Let's move to the third thing, that your ministry. So you have all you need, and you are a minister. So what is your ministry? Your ministry is to change the world. Now, there's just one problem with that, just one little small problem. People are saying, including me, I say, listen, this is just too big. Change the world, make a dent in the universe. That's intimidating, not me. I live in Columbia, South Carolina, and I'm a consulting guy. Not me. And the cost of that, for all of us, is a change that's not happening. and in Peggy's meditation, and we're all aware of our circumstances, what the world is like now. And so when we are not willing to accept our role as minister to change the world, we operate in a fear-based thinking and behavior, not love-driven. So I want to tell you a story. It's an old story, perhaps it's a myth, maybe you've heard it. But it's the rabbi's gift. And at one time, there was a thriving monastery. They had a big house and various monasteries across the kingdom. But due to the 17th and 18th century persecution of monastic life and the rise of secularism in the 19th century, that monastery was decaying. It was an abbot and 4 monks. At one time, there were hundreds of them. And at one time, people from the village would come and enjoy the picnics on the lawn. Nobody came. But over the years, the monks and the abbot had come to know, just had a sense of when the rabbi was in his hermitage in the forest. And one day they said, he's in his hermitage. He's there. He's in his hermitage. And they said to the abbot, you've got to go and seek his advice. Find out if he can help us save this monastery. So the abbot left, trudged through the forest, found the hermitage, and the rabbi greeted him warmly. Invited him in, they had tea, and they spent time commiserating, and the abbot said, you know, things are just going to rack and ruin. It's just terrible. And the rabbi said, well, you know, I can appreciate what you're saying because I don't have very many people coming to the synagogue anymore. I know what you mean. So the abbot was a bit disappointed that the rabbi hadn't given him the answer for what he needed. So he got up, prepared to leave, and he said, the rabbi said, oh, the Messiah is among you. And that's it. And he went on his way. Move your hair. So the abbot makes his way back to the monastery. And when he comes in, the 4 monks said, well, what did you say? What did you say? He said, well, not much really wanted to help. Really, he didn't tell me anything to do. But he did say, kind of a strange thing. He said, the Messiah was among us. The Messiah was one of us. Well, surely that's the abbot. I mean, he's been our leader for decades. Anybody's got to be him. Or Thomas. We all know he's a holy man, a man of light. Probably Thomas. Well, I know it's not Elliott. He is downright critical, but you know, he has kept us from making a lot of mistakes. In fact, he's very nearly always right. Couldn't be Philip. Philip is passive, he's milquetoast. But, you know, if you're ever having a bad day in a bad spot, well, it just seems to appear. And he always has the right thing to say. Well, I'm sure it's not me. It couldn't possibly be me. But as the days went by, they began to treat each other with extraordinary love and respect. Just on the off chance it was one of them, they began to treat themselves with love and respect. And before long, people started being attracted. They wanted to come and bring their families and share picnic on a small lawn, and go to the chapel to pray and meditate. And young men started being interested in learning more about.
We can handle it, go ahead, it's all right.
Learning more about the monastery. And they became,
Let's use this other mic.
and before long, the monastery was once a thriving, bright light in the kingdom. So what's the message there? Show up as the Christ, as our number 2 principle says, in your part of the world, no matter what that is. Whether you're in higher education, you're a hairdresser, you drive a truck, you preach, you teach, no matter what it is, in your corner of the world, to change the world with love, wisdom, and courage. In the words of Anne Frank, she sums it up pretty well. How wonderful it is that nobody has to wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. So remember, you have all you need to do the work that is yours to do. You are a minister. Your ministry is to change the world. Namaste.